So I'm giving you a quick update on the phase out of American ID in the dairy industry. When you look at the ID types currently in use in the dairy industry, we have the breed registry number and we have had American ID. I would say almost every breed registry now uses American ID to identify animals internally. We also have the noose numbering system. We've had manufacturer-coded RFID numbers, and the most recent addition is the AIN 840 number. So between those four numbering systems, basically that's what's used to identify dairy animals through the milk reporting, and the breed association, and the genetic evaluation system. The key is unique ID. Now, I use the word unique ID as key. That doesn't mean it's official, but what it does mean, it cannot repeat. A unique ID cannot repeat. And we need a unique ID to get a genetic evaluation on a dairy animal. And keep in mind that about 50% of the dairy animals in this country go through the genetic evaluation system administered by the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding. With genomic testing becoming a bigger tool available to dairy farmers, you need a unique ID to get a genomic test on a dairy animal, from a baby calf all the way to a mature animal. Most of the farm management solutions on the farm need a unique ID. If you have parlor systems, feeding systems, you name it, you need a unique ID. Now, I'm saying here, a unique ID, the industry could continue to use American ID because it is a unique ID and it's been around for almost 20 years. So on the right side you see a couple examples of how American ID was used on tags, and also the manufacturer-coded RFID tags. So a lot of farms use those for parlor systems and identification. But why is official ID preferred? Basically, a lot of dairy farmers are still involved in calf food vaccinations. A lot of dairy animals move, especially those that are involved in shows and events where they need to have some health papers in terms of a CVI. And I think most dairy farmers prefer to minimize the number of tags on an animal. We talked about adding more than one tag and multiple numbers. I'm sure most dairy farmers would prefer using a number and minimize the number of tags with unique numbers on it, because if you have to report or record all these things, it causes a lot of extra work. So there's been always an interest in the dairy industry for one single unique ID, and before AIN even existed, American ID was the concept. And we like both the unique ID that can be used as a printed form and an electronic. So the two numbers are the same, either electronically read or visibly read. So the move towards 840, and I'm going to say noose tags are not unique. And you're going to say, yes, they are on live animals. That's a problem. You can't run a genetic evaluation system on numbers that repeat. So we've seen use of RFID on farms quite a bit, and that's growing pretty quickly. So there's certainly demand for using RFID tags. The use of visible ID tags for breed registry and herd management has increased quite rapidly too. I think Holstein Association, over half your animals are now identified using tag ID, correct? So, the amount of industry programs using a visible ID or an RFID has increased quite a bit. The other thing that's helped us moving towards 840 is, in probably the last half year, we can now get little button tags, not an RFID, but it's a small button tag with an 840 number on it. There are a lot of small dairy farms that aren't going to invest in RFID technology on the farm. However, they still need a unique identifier. So having that little button tag available has helped getting more people on board in the program. Now, I'm sharing with you a website that for all of you state veterinarians, I hope someday you'll take a look at this. This is the USDA AIPL, and actually you go to the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding website, but there's a tool available on the website that you can key in a series of metal tags, and it'll tell you which ones have already been used. So in this case, I'm showing you a screen showing you just an arbitrary series, 35 AAA001 through 9999. So 1,000 tags, and the list goes on. But these are all animals that have been recorded through the dairy genetic evaluation system, and where those tags, where those numbers originated from. It tells you which breed, the country code, female, the number, and the date that those were entered into the system. So we got numbers dating back as far as 1960 that were entered. So using news tags works as long as they're not reused. And that's been a problem in the dairy industry. So, we're dealing with some legacy systems. With 840 tags, there's no longer a need for American ID for printing on visible panel or RFID tags. And the nice thing about that is there's no cost difference buying a panel tag with 840 number or a panel tag with American ID. So we've seen a rapid shift here in the past year, moving folks from tags with American ID to tags with 840 numbers on it. But American ID numbers on metal tags will still be around. The industry also had a little metal tag, similar tag to the one with the noose number on it that they printed American ID numbers on it. Again, a cheap alternative. Those have been around, and they probably were a lot printed, so they're still out there. We know that applying those after March 11th means it's no longer an official ID. There is a cost difference to replace those tags with 840 numbers. And, there will still be a lot of DHIAs that will use news tags, but, we need to be aware of the fact that it creates duplicates, and those animals will get kicked out of the genetic evaluation system. So there's still a lot of on-farm technology that is not using 840 numbering system, but I envision they're going to continue to move towards that. Most of the new parlor systems sold, they'll work straight off a low-frequency 840 RFID tag. So there will be some areas of continued use of American ID, and the areas where we will need it is breed registries using tattoos, freeze brands, photos, and sketches. Although the ADT rule specifies what can be used for interstate movement, there's still a lot of need for a unique ID for animals that don't move. So if they don't have an 840 tag on them or a news tag, to get an animal registered, they have to assign a unique identifier, so they will still use that American ID, but you won't find it on the animal itself. So there's other entities out there, third-party service providers that need a unique ID, and we've had some instances where if you want a service, then they need a unique ID, but the farmer isn't ready to start putting a tag in that animal's ear. It has nothing to do with animal health regulations, it's purely management. So in scenarios like that, American ID will still be used even though there's no tag with that number on it, but it's assigned to that animal. So when we talk about phasing out American ID, I think there's a very natural progression taking place in the dairy industry right now, that the majority of RFIDs being issued and a majority of panel tags, and I think Neil's chart that showed the big jump, I would think the majority of those are dairy animals, and they are rapidly switching over to 840 tags, but there will still be a need to maintain American ID for certain groups of animals that won't need a tag for animal health purposes, but they will need one to enter the genetic evaluation system. At some point, the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding will have to decide if they will continue with that, or if they'll say, from this point forward, either it's a news tag or a 840 AIN tag, but I don't believe that decision has been made yet. So that's what's happened on the dairy side. The The amount of tag sales happening with 840 has certainly gone up quite a bit in the last year, and a lot of it's RFID for herd management use. And if I can use one number across all my programs, I think that's something the dairy industry certainly appreciates.